Welcome to this week's edition of New York Now. I'm Daryl Camp, in for Dan Clark. Earlier this year, India Walton defeated incumbent Byron Brown in the Democratic primary for mayor in Buffalo, but the race is not over yet as Brown has not dropped out. When asked this week about endorsing a candidate in that race, State Democratic Party Chair Jay Jacobs made headlines with his answer, which included an analogy involving David Duke, the former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, that led to calls for his resignation. Meanwhile, Rita Glavin, attorney for former Governor Andrew Cuomo, Hochul's predecessor, released a 153-page document this week disputing the findings of an August report from Attorney General Letitia James on sexual misconduct allegations against Cuomo. So now, to break down those stories, we have David Lombardo from Capitol Press Room. Thanks for being here, Dave.
It's my pleasure.
So what did Jay Jacobs say, and is the reaction warranted? People are calling for his resignation, and a lot of people are saying he's not fit to lead the party now.
So Jacobs made a very poor analogy comparing David Dukes as an outsider in a generic metaphorical election and making a comparison to India Walton. And I think in the grand scheme of things, we can all move past this pretty quickly because it's a typical unforced error by Jay Jacobs, who finds himself getting in trouble when he speaks sometimes. And he's a shrewd political mind, but maybe not the best person to do public relations for the New York State Democratic Party. And the calls for his resignation are not surprising, considering that they're coming from the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, and they have no love for Jacobs to begin with. The thing that I find really interesting here is the endorsements that Walton's been getting. Just recently, we saw U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer get off the fence and endorse Walton, who is the Democratic Party candidate. But we have yet to hear, and we may never hear, an endorsement from Governor Kathy Hochul, where, she comes from Buffalo. And I think this really represents the challenge that she has moving forward, because Byron Brown, while not the Democratic Party candidate, is sort of the Democratic establishment in that race, and India Walton represents the upcoming progressive wing, and these are two wings of the party that she's trying to attract as she looks for her own Democratic nomination next year. So I think short of picking one side, she's just sitting on her hands and hoping that that is the least detrimental to her future chances as getting a full term as governor.
So what it could take for the governor to make an endorsement in this race is enough political pressure, or if it hurt her. But as of right now, according to a recent poll, she's doing fine.
Yeah, a Siena Research Institute poll came out this week, and it looked at registered voters, and it showed us that Democrats, who are her base essentially, considering that she needs Democrats to become governor, considering the overwhelming advantage that they have in enrollment, Democrats support her in terms of her job approval. She has a net favorability rating after less than 2 months on the job, with the caveat that there are a sizable number of New Yorkers who have yet to form an opinion. And that poll also looked at a couple different horse races that we might see in the Democratic primary next June. One with a very crowded field that included former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who I think is unlikely to run, but that in that race she was winning, as well as a heads-up matchup between her and Attorney General Letitia James, a Brooklyn Democrat who's flirted with a run but hasn't actually made any commitment. She has given no promise rings out to anyone. But Governor Hochul was leading in that matchup too. So I think if I'm Governor Kathy Hochul and I look at this Siena poll, I have to feel pretty good about myself. Granted, there's a chance for movement over the next 8 months. Anything could happen, and a poll of likely Democratic primary voters could shake things up as well. But yeah, she's got to feel comfortable about where she is.
Now, speaking of A.G. James, everything here is connected. The report that she released in August is being disputed again by Rita Glavin, former Governor Andrew Cuomo's attorney. She had a press conference and released a 153-page document. To be fair, I only had time to skim that this week, but does she have a case as far as amending the AG's report, or is the governor just having a hard time saying goodbye to yesterday?
I mean, it's the latter. It doesn't matter if the Attorney General amends her report. There's not going to be a do-over on the governor's resignation. I think we need to think about who is the audience for these repeated appearances by Rita Glavin, as well as the governor's still press person, Rich Azzopardi, the last man on the ship still. The governor, I think, is on just a PR overhaul, a makeup campaign for himself. And I think that's all about what he wants to do for his future. So this isn't about getting reinstated. This is about his long-term future, because I think this is someone who has a life that's only existed in politics, and if he wants to have any sort of political future, whether that's running for election in the future or whether that's just being involved in politics, he needs to have a just complete campaign overhaul, and that's what we're seeing with these repeated appearances.
Well, Dave, we could talk about this for hours and hours because it's so deep, but we are out of time. I appreciate you being here. David
pleasure.
Lombardo from Capitol Press Room.
Thanks, Daryl.